Okay, everyone, we're going to start the event now. Hello, welcome to this COM 200 panel on careers in communication. I am Megan Jeffrey. I am the Department of Communications Outreach and Alumni Relations Specialist, and we are so thrilled to have you here with some of our wonderful UW communication alumni for this event. I'm going to start the event with the UW land acknowledgement. Sorry, bear with me. I am flipping between windows. The University of Washington acknowledges the Coast Salish peoples of this land, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. That being said, I'd like to turn it over to your wonderful professor, Andrea Otanis, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about this class and the purpose of this panel. Andrea.
Got it. Thank you for unmuting me, Megan. Hi, everyone. A special thanks to our 4 panelists, Maya, Ginger, LaVendrick, and Annaliese, two of whom were I had student-professor interactions with. So everyone is aware, this is the end of COM 200. COM 200 at this quarter is a 395-person class that was taught all asynchronously except for a few sections. So I'm assuming that most of the alum who are here with us took COM 200, and this is the entry class that everyone has to take if they want to be a major, but we also have students who are not intended majors who are in this class. So all quarter long, we've been talking through different topics in communication. I teach journalism and public interest communication, but this is clearly a more broad-based survey course on different concepts in communication. And one of my main goals in this class has been to help students see the applicability, the immediate applicability of communication in their lives, everything from personal communication, friendship communication, talked about journalism, media surveillance, all kinds of things, health communication. So this is the last week of classes, and so this is an opportunity for alum who have been through our program to come back and talk about, where they have gone since leaving us and where their communication education may have come into play there. So that's the broad context. And again, thank you everybody for being here. And this is a 400-person class, but because this is all asynchronous, I can't make everybody be here at a specific time. So we're going to share this with all the students through the recording afterward.
Thanks, Andrea. So I think how we're going to start is we're going to go round robin. I will call on our panelists to give you a little bit of background information on themselves. Hopefully you all got a chance to read their biographies, but this will give you a chance to hear from them in their own words what they do. So I'm just going to call on y'all based on how you're arranged on my screen, and I would like to start with LaVendrick.
Thank you. I guess starting off, I want to congratulate y'all for making it to this final week of classes. I can't imagine just how stressful of a time it's been to have to go through COVID and learning right now. And, it's incredible that y'all are able to make it through that. I'm LaVendrick Smith. I am a media communication strategist with the ACLU of Washington. What that means is I basically help out with the comm strategy for our organization. And that includes helping out with fielding media requests from reporters when they need help working on a story. I'll help connect them with our attorneys or our policy experts. I also will pitch story ideas to reporters when there's an issue that our organization is working on that I think needs to be, captured in the media. And, I also do a little bit of writing myself with that role. Prior to this, I'm very new to this job and career. Prior to this, I was a journalist and I worked as a reporter in Dallas, Texas for the Dallas Morning News. I covered crime and breaking news and murder trials, just all kinds of stuff. And before then, I was a reporter in Charlotte for the Charlotte Observer, doing the same thing, basically. So I have kind of experience both as a reporter and, in this newer role for me in this kind of comms PR side.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, LaVendrick. Ginger.
Hi, I'm Ginger Chan. I am the SVP of Consumer Communications for Endeavor. So Endeavor owns a number of entities. You may be familiar with the UFC, Professional Bull Riders, Miss Universe, also the larger entities of WME and IMG, which WME is our talent agency as well. So I oversee anything that's consumer facing in our portfolio. Anything, what did I say, is things that your parents or your friends read for fun are all outlets that I cover. So you know, a little bit opposite of LaVendrick, the non-serious media. You know, everyone from Ellen to Good Morning America, Today's Show, LA Times, USA Today, kind of live in my world. So I, you know, prior to being in Endeavor, I've been here for 2.5 years. I really worked on the film and television side. So I worked with all the film studios, television networks, and streamers, working on their publicity campaigns for launches of films and their content products. And prior to that, I worked in the film festival world. So that was kind of my bootstrapping and scrappy portion of my career, and really traveling around the country, working at different film festivals and working in a short period of time for festival films when they would be shown, and getting the word out for consumers to view those films.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Ginger, you're joining us from LA today, correct? Oops.
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles, sunny LA.
Well, thank you so much. It is one of the silver linings of COVID that we're able to have guest speakers that are not necessarily local. So going from the West Coast over to the East Coast, I'd like to ask Annaliese Davis to introduce herself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Annaliese Davis. I am a senior communications advisor for the House Majority Leader, Congressman Steny Hoyer from the great state of Maryland. I've been in this role for a couple of years now. I've actually spent the majority of my career working on Capitol Hill in various capacities, all with Congressman Hoyer. I'm the on-the-record spokesperson for him with national and regional outlets. I do a lot of booking with cable news, so whenever you see my boss on TV, I usually was talking to the producers behind the scenes to enable that. I help craft the agenda and the message that we put out to share with the American people to explain the work that House Democrats are doing. So today I'm actually in the Capitol building at work, and we're trying to get the American Rescue Plan passed and out the door to help the American people. So in my day-to-day job, I do anything from staffing Leader Hoyer at press conferences or events in his district, or overseas travel pre-COVID, to writing press releases and drafting social media and kind of a litany of other things. So like I said, I've been with Mr. Hoyer for pretty much my entire career since I graduated from the University of Washington. I've done some campaign work as well, but I kind of took the political comms route, a little bit different from my colleagues. So.
Well, thank you, Annaliese. We're happy to have you with us. And going back to local, Maya Hutchinson.
Hi. I love how different all of our gigs are. Very special. My name is Maya Hutchinson, totally rerouting this. I own and operate 2 Pure Barre studios here in Seattle. I also teach at both studios, and I am a personal trainer and health coach. I manage a team of over 20 people, plan and execute all of our comms, marketing, and sales efforts. More recently, I started working with Pure Barre Corporate to help evolve their brand through more strategic marketing, just with more of an emphasis on social and political brand awareness, which I know a lot of larger companies are kind of rerouting to make sure we are using our platforms and our voices in a positive, moving way. Although Pure Barre is a franchise, we operate completely as a small local business. 2020 was obviously a very tough year for small businesses, but we're still going strong. We're still standing, and I owe a lot of the success to what I learned in the comms program back class of 2017, so not too long ago. Super excited to chat with you all today. And prior to owning the studios, I was in New York City. I was working as a community manager for a tech startup. If anyone knows Aptive, they're still going strong as well. My job mostly consisted of helping them build a brand through strategic communications. I did a lot of copywriting and content creation, which we were largely trying to build community online, which is kind of full circle. We're back there now. That is where I'm at.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maya. So we're going to move into the moderated discussion portion of this event. And I would like to ask each of you the first question, which is, why is a career in communications a worthwhile pursuit? And I feel like we're just going to open it up to anyone who wants to respond. You can just come off mute and share with us your thoughts on that.
I can start. Well, I think obviously what you're seeing as through example right here is just how versatile the degree is. You can take a communication degree and do just so much with it. I mean, there's so many things you could do with it that I can't even think of like specifics almost. But like there's just so many different companies. There's all kinds of companies, organizations, agencies, departments need comms work, and so there's just no limit to what you can do with it.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other thoughts they want to share? Ginger?
Yeah, I would echo that. I would just say, especially it varies from organization to organization. Certainly in my current org, communications really has a seat at the table. So I think when we're, having any kind of business conversation around whether it's an acquisition or an internal, event or, anything, comms really has a seat at the table to kind of chime in, give their thoughts, and they're really looked at as a thought leader in our company. So we're not, I think some orgs that may be reactive, but I think some of the best orgs really value comms to be a partner, in the business and have the opportunity to really weigh in and kind of guide the direction of the company as a whole.
And I'll echo what Ginger said, especially on the political side of things. Communications is kind of the most important part, right? We're the ones who get the message out there and share with the American people what we're doing. And, sharing your message is really important, and it changes how people view things, whether they view things positively or negatively. So I think that you kind of drive the boat or the ship, in politics. If you're the loudest person out there, you have public sentiment on your side. I think comms is really important.
I'll finish by, again, piggybacking off of what everyone else said. Communications is really at the heart of all things business and in many different industries and businesses. I think that especially right now, we're experiencing this online world where communication is important, and we've all had to pivot in very different ways. A lot of us are creating content that maybe was meant to be, expressed or presented face to face or to a different market that maybe no longer exists. I know we in the fitness world have pivoted a lot, and communication is how we were able to keep our community active and coming back and learning. And it can really tie into any job or business and is at the heart of it all.
Absolutely. And to Maya's point, this panel represents the diversity of applications that you can find through these communication skills. So we're so thrilled to have this representation of the communications industry here with us today. So my next question for all of you is, can you describe the day-to-day of your job? And follow-up, can you kind of talk about how that's changed in the wake of the global pandemic and trying to move into a more virtual communication space? I'll start with Ginger.
Yeah, I think the benefit or what I enjoy most about my job is that no day is the same, to be honest. I think it really depends, what our business objectives are. We may be launching something, we may be announcing something. A lot of my job too is overseeing a lot of our clients who don't have personal publicists. So, recently Amanda Gorman, who spoke at the inauguration, as a client, and she does not have a publicist. So we're managing all of our publicity. So it really just depends, day to day, what are the objectives at hand. And I think, how things have changed. Obviously virtually, I think before where people would call, or stop by your office, it's now, I have to remind my assistant to leave time to do actual work, because I can go from, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with VCs back to back. And I think, people are more apt to just schedule a video conference because people are craving face-to-face time with people other than their own household, rather than just picking up the phone. And then B, I think kind of some of the limitations of time zones. I, have a team that reports to me in the UK as well as China. So my day really starts early and ends late, and it kind of flows between the two. But in this virtual world, I think it's also been a blessing for those people who I am not in the same physical space with, to be able to easily VC with them, in their time zones that's a little more amenable in that capacity.
Thank you. LaVendrick?
It's a little, I guess it's interesting for me because I've only known this role that I have now virtually. A year ago today, I was in a newsroom and we got our first COVID case in Dallas County like the day later, and we all left the newsroom to work from home. And a good portion of us on my team have just never worked together in the same building ever again. So now I'm in this new role, trying to learn, I guess I wouldn't say necessarily newer skills, but skills that I've already had and trying to adapt them to this new role. So I take a lot of the reporting skills that I have as far as writing and whatnot, and I've transitioned all that stuff to certain things like making, media advisories, press releases, statements, that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit of what I do. Other day-to-day activities include, I guess, working with a lot of the lawyers and policy experts at the ACLU of Washington to kind of get an understanding of a lot of complex issues that I don't understand myself, but to make sure that I can understand them and explain them to a reporter when I pitch the idea to them to get them interested in covering it. So there's a lot of, just that kind of work. And as far as with COVID, I guess it's kind of what everyone else is going through right now. A lot of Zoom, a lot of just being on the computer all the time. And I genuinely look forward to getting into the office again, just to get back to that kind of normalcy and really see what all I can do with this role.
LaVendrick, I do have a quick follow-up to that. How have you been able to still maintain a sense of connection to the people that you work with, even if it's been virtual this entire time?
We do a lot of, I feel like I've been able to get to know them a lot, or pretty well throughout just doing virtual stuff. And, I guess I first started communicating with them back in the summer when I applied. So ever since about August, I've just been online meeting these people. And so you get to know them kind of through meetings. And the good thing is that I guess this isn't a good thing that everybody's stressed right now, but when everyone's stressed, we're not doing it alone. And so there's kind of a sense of community there. And so I feel like I know them pretty well, and I just know that it'll get better once we're all able to be in the same building.
Absolutely. Annaliese, it's been an interesting few years in politics. Could you tell us about your day-to-day?
Sure. So unlike my colleagues, I've actually been in the office for most of the pandemic. The work of Congress doesn't stop. And as somebody without children, I normally am volunteered to go into the office and staff Mr. Hoyer. But it's been great. I mean, every day is different on Capitol Hill. The last 4 years were wild, to say the least. And hopefully the next 4 years bring a little bit of calm back to this building. But yeah, for today, for example, I started my morning planning a press conference that we do every week. Instead of being in person, now we're virtual. And then later on in the afternoon, my boss spoke on the House floor in support of legislation. So I helped staff him get up there and, answer any reporter questions that were incoming on the way up. And then we just finished up a press conference with the Speaker of the House. So running around and preparing remarks and writing social media and, making graphics and all that kind of falls into my wheelhouse, which is wild, is crazy. I think we're all just kind of running at full speed at this point and trying to find some time to decompress a little bit when we can. But yeah, it's just, it's always different, which is exciting. And you never know what's going to come up. And during the Trump administration, you really did never know what was going to come up. So that had its own challenges. But now, being able to plan and execute different pieces of legislation and see the benefit that they're having for folks throughout the country is really great. And one of the things I like the most about my job.
Thanks. And Maya, I promise I'm not saving you for last every single time, but could you share with us what it's been like to be an entrepreneur and a communications?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I, like my colleagues here, wear many hats. Sounds like we all do. My first day of business ownership was January 2nd of 2020. So it was quite an interesting entry to small business ownership, but something that I also minored in entrepreneurship at UW. Highly recommend if anyone is looking to major in comms and minor in something that really complements the comms program. Something you learn in that side of school is that you are always pivoting in business. And luckily with my communications background, that's kind of the tool that I was able to use in order to do that. So in March, we pivoted it it took about 2 days to pivot to a virtual only business. We were met with the decision of, do you shut it? Do you close down shop and just kind of ride it out? We obviously had no idea what that was going to look like back in early March. So we decided let's keep our clients moving. Let's keep it going. So we pivoted to virtual overnight, and my life changed drastically. As running a small business, we're constantly running around. A lot of it is I won't get into the nitty gritty of the operations side, but is the technology working? We had 2 speaker blowouts in a month. You just never know what's going to happen. Won't get too deep into that. The fun part of what I do is the marketing side, the communication side, and building this community that is super, super important in small business and in the fitness space. Luckily, I had a background in community management and building this online virtual community, so it already existed. So a lot of what I get to do day to day, I write newsletters often to keep our community engaged and coming back. We do a ton of social media, everything. Social media, keeping everyone engaged is super, super important. We have around 6,000 followers between the 2 studios. So it's a pretty solid platform to be used for how little we are. And then I get to work with people now. Thank goodness. We are reopened. We were able to reopen in June, and then we're closed again, and now we're reopen at a very small capacity. So a reason I got into this is I like working with people. I like being face to face. Obviously, last year kind of put a little dent in that excitement and possibility, but we get to do really cool stuff virtually now. I started a JEDI committee, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for Pure Bar, which is part of the work I'm doing with corporate now. So it's a lot of trying to figure out how to get the community involved and engaged when we can't necessarily gather as a group. So that is kind of the day-to-day challenge now. How do we keep people moving and healthy and happy, but also how can we keep them engaged separate from that and just more in the community space?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Matt. Well, we've got a lot of great questions coming into the chat, so I think I'm actually going to move on to the student question and answer portion. What I'll do is I will select certain questions from the chat and ask them for certain panelists, unless other panelists really, really want to chime in on that particular topic, and we'll just kind of go from there. As for our students, you're welcome to continue to drop your questions in the chat, or if you use the raise hand icon, I'll be happy to call on you once we're done. So the first question I'm going to direct to Ginger. What was the first step you took after college toward your career, and how did you know that that was what you wanted to do?
Oh, great question. Honestly, I did a lot of internships while I was in the comms program. I can't remember what class it was, but, my sophomore year, I started to take a lot of different internships in the comms field. And, I did some at nonprofits. I did some at bigger PR agencies from a more corporate perspective to really kind of see what my interests were. Because to, I think, everyone's point who's spoken, comms is such a broad field, and there are so many different avenues and places for you to kind of live and take space in. So I kind of ended up taking an internship at an entertainment company, and I always have been a fan of entertainment. So I started out being an intern there. And then when I graduated, I was still kind of working for them freelance, covering conventions and stuff. And their specialty was really regional publicity and promotion. promotions for the entertainment community. So it's when you see, a film review in the Seattle Times or Seattle Weekly or, the Seattle Film Festival, those were all things that were executed out of that agency. And then after that, I kind of, like I said, I did the film festival world for a little bit, and that was really a trial by fire. I think to Annaliese's point, when you're young, I just encourage you. I was literally sleeping in the press office. I would wake up in the morning and send out press releases, photos from the night before, run press screenings, and then move into the normal workday of pitching. And then at night there would be events, and I would be managing photographers and media people at the events and red carpets and so forth. So it was really, a kind of boot camp is what I call the film festival world, to really, see if entertainment PR is something that you want to do. But I think it's really just testing out, the different areas of comms, whether it's nonprofit or politics or so forth. And I, even my colleagues who work on the entertainment side, they all have very different backgrounds as well. Many of them, one worked for, the Obama campaign, one came from fashion PR. So it really is a diverse community of people. I think in, various places, whatever fits kind of your interest, that you can meld together with kind of your comms expertise.
Excellent, thank you. We have a question from Maya. How did you get involved with Pure Barre, and how did your major in comm translate to fitness?
Great question. I grew up playing sports very competitively, and I think many of you can probably relate. You get to school, you're used to having these groups and communities, and you're kind of like, where do I fit in? So I was dragged to a Pure Barre class out of the blue, and it was so hard and so humbling. I thought I was in great shape, and I got my butt kicked. So that was the first endearing part of Pure Barre specifically. I couldn't afford a membership, so I emailed the manager until I got hired there. I got a job at the desk. Within weeks, they had asked me if I was interested in teaching, and I started teaching. So that's kind of how I got into the brand. Super fun. Come see us. It's the community, again, I keep bringing this back as the community manager I am at heart, but community is huge. I think in fitness, you can go and get a great workout somewhere, but if you're not feeling good, feeling empowered, feeling like you're surrounded by people who are going to push you, I wasn't interested. So I dove deep into the community there. I then, again, I ask for jobs if they don't exist. I went to the owners who I ended up purchasing the studios from, and asked them to create a marketing role for me. It was a marketing communications coordinator role, where I basically got to go all around Seattle and do market research for them, check out what was going on in the fitness scene, what were we not doing, where was there space to evolve as a local brand. And again, we're kind of straddling this line of having a corporate above us as a franchise, but also really running our studios locally from a very unique level. So I asked for that job. They said, sure, why not? Couldn't hurt. Ask for jobs. Like Ginger said, I took a gazillion different types of internships, and that really helped me decide where I wanted to go. You have to know what you don't want to do before you know what you do want to do. I'm slightly sidetracked, but I was in a box. I was going to do PR. PR was my thing. I had 2 very long-term internships. I got to New York with a job in PR and was so miserable. I was sitting at a desk. I am not the type that can sit at a desk all day. I need to be running around and face-to-face with people and go. So try things out, say yes, ask for jobs that don't exist. That's how I got more involved in Pure Barre and thought, okay, maybe one day I could actually run one of these shops. So bringing it back, how does comms translate to fitness? Well, from a very literal level, we are leading classes where communication is so important, especially now. We can't touch anyone. Human touch, if you're in fitness, it is a tough thing right now. We love having our hands on people and correcting and guiding. We can't do that now. So it's all verbal cueing. So from a literal standpoint, very, very important, and has totally changed how we train our new instructors. So that's been interesting. On the back end of things, we Gosh, it's a lot of content creation and a lot of writing. There are jobs that I wish I had known about back in college, like copywriters. So cool if you love to write, if you love building brand, if you love, it can relate to PR as well. Look into those extra gigs. I was able to wear a couple of those hats at the startup I was at in New York, and I find myself now often at my computer, writing, marketing campaigns, social media strategy. We run challenges all the time, monthly newsletters for our Jedi committee, monthly newsletters for what's going on in the studios, what's going on in the fitness world. So it's, it definitely is directly related and it's just multifaceted all the time, different every day.
Awesome. Thank you so much. LaVendrick, next question is going to be for you. How was the shift from student to the real world? And what was it like for you to navigate that experience when you first left college?
God, it's kind of intense. It could be kind of intense. For me, it was. When I left UW, I went to go intern at the Washington Post. And then from there, I went to go to Florida and intern at the Tampa Bay Times. And then I went to Charlotte and Dallas. And so it was a lot of fun. Traveling that much and going to new places is great. You meet new people and it's just a great experience and very enriching, but it can be very stressful at the same time. I remember one of the most challenging experiences I ever had in my life was when I went to Tampa to intern in Florida for the Tampa Bay Times. And at that point, I was on the exact opposite side of the country as I could possibly get from my home. With no way to get to my family. I had no car, but I lied to the people so I can get this job or this internship. And so I said I had a car. And so I ended up buying one for $750 off of Craigslist that had horrible brakes and I probably should have died in it. So it's stuff like that just very stressful. But it builds character. And essentially, I guess when you get out of college, you'll be exposed to just like adulthood. And there are times where it will be very daunting. But I guess you just learn how to persevere and build and grow. And you'll get to a point where you get older, you'll be like, damn, I wish I would have known some of this stuff back then. But that's the joy of life. You don't know some of that stuff when you're younger. But eventually you'll kind of, I guess, become a more mature person, I guess, the further you go. So I guess the way I'd answer that is just saying it can be challenging, exciting, fun, rewarding, all kinds of stuff. Was there like a part that was like, how do you prepare for that involved?
Actually, that was going to be my follow-up question. What sort of support systems can you put in place to help yourself get over those really challenging, stressful times navigating the real world after college?
I guess it's essential that you have really good, close interpersonal relationships with people, a good support system and network of friends or family who can just speak with you and get you to calm down when there might be an issue that really isn't that big of an issue. I'm trying to think, like, early on in my career, if my boss said something a certain way, I'd be stressed out, like, oh, I'm about to get fired, but it's never really that big of an issue. So there's just certain things that, you learn over time, how to better manage and deal with.
Great answer. Annaliese, this one is for you. What advice do you have for college students who are looking to pursue a career in political communications?
Well, my first piece of advice would be to do the journalism internship in Olympia that Andrea actually facilitated when I was an undergrad at UW, which was fantastic, a great opportunity. And I realized what I didn't want to do, picking up on what Maya said. I did not want to be a political reporter. I liked writing, I liked politics. I did not like the reporting aspect of it. But it was a great experience because I got, to know that pretty early on. I was still in college and could kind of adjust my career path accordingly. You just kind of have to jump in with both feet and take the jobs that come to you, and they're not glamorous. My first job out of college was working on a campaign, and it's long hours, and I moved to DC kind of on a whim because that felt like the right thing to do when the campaign was over, and I didn't know where I was going to sleep when I got there, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I just took an internship and kind of hoped for the best. But I took a job that got me to where I am now. I had to go through a lot of tough situations, like getting to work at 6 o'clock in the morning and staying until 1 o'clock in the morning, but it builds character. And, you know, people that are interested in politics, members of Congress have internships, and I know it's really challenging to come to Capitol Hill without a job. It was really challenging for me. I couldn't afford to make it work. I was fortunate that I got a paid internship. But, you know, just reaching out to members of Congress or local elected officials, I think that's really underrated, because the local elected officials that represent you, they're the ones that actually like do the work that affects your life. Members of Congress, you know, are on TV, but they're not actually always passing the legislation that directly impacts you. So, you know, if you're interested in that, reaching out to volunteer in an office or, you know, help on a campaign like I did, I thought was a really great way to get into politics and, you know, work your way up.
Wonderful, thank you. Feel free to keep dropping those questions in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and come off mute and ask a question, you are welcome to. Just give you all some time to do that if you want. Okay, I'll just keep on going with my other questions. So this is for all of you, so feel free to kind of jump in when you have an answer. But outside of internships, are there any particular experiences from your time as a student at the UW that really impacted your career choice or influenced, you know, the professional you are now?
I can chime in here. It's a tough time to be saying this because we don't know what's ahead of us right now. But if you can do a study abroad program, I did the journalism program through the communications department, and it was amazing. I always knew I loved to write, but this was something completely out of left field that I thought I'd do just to challenge myself. And I am constantly finding skills and things that I've learned from that program, specifically from, I mean, it was obviously amazing going abroad anywhere, but specifically from the program that I'm using now. So I think across the board here, all of us do some sort of writing, whether it be, you know, well, we're very, very different from all across. For me, I'll just speak for myself. It's a lot of, it's marketing forward. It's, you know, we're constantly selling a product and experience. And I had no idea how much the journalism program would contribute to that. So if you can, if this is a thing in the next, 6 months, year, 2 years, 3 years, I hope for all of you it is, apply to a program if you can. It was amazing. And you get the credits you need. I had a lot of friends who did study abroad programs in other departments. And I think that choosing comm was, for my major, was very important to get me to graduation. So a realistic goal too.
Absolutely. And study abroad is hopefully going to come back. We had a couple of information sessions on some upcoming programs, I want to say just last week. So if you have any questions about what sort of study abroad programs you can access through the communication department, feel free to reach out to me, or Andrea also knows a great deal about that. Any other thoughts from our other panel members about experiences at the UW that have shaped their careers?
Well, I never did study abroad, but it's one of my biggest regrets. So I echo that. If you have the opportunity, you should absolutely do it. I think for me, it's weird how some classes kind of stick out in your mind, but I took mass media law, which I don't know if that's actually still a course, but certainly in the entertainment community and the work that I do day to day, it's vastly huge to kind of have that foundational knowledge around legalities of usage. And then also it's like, may seem antiquated, but I think everyone on this call has mentioned it, and it's certainly a part of my daily life, is press release writing. It's like, it may be a monotonous task or assignment when you're in college and you think like, oh, it's 2021, I'm not going to do it. But the fact of the matter is, I think almost in all of our sectors, press releases are still very much a thing, you know, and I think in any given day, I had 4 press releases I had approved this morning that were going out in the next couple of days. And it's something that's like, you know, once you kind of learn the craft or hone the craft of doing it, it's very valuable. And I think the importance of writing, which everyone has also spoken about, I think can really be perfected and crafted in terms of press release writing. But that's something that I know when I was in college, I was like rolling my eyes that I thought I would never really have to do after college, but it's for better or worse, stuck with me for almost 20 years. So it's something to certainly take advantage of.
Awesome. Thank you. Francisco, you have your hand up. Oh, you're muted. No worries. It's just a Zoom thing.
That is so embarrassing. Hi, everybody. My name is Francisco. I'm a first-generation student here at the University of Washington. My question was more going to like everybody. You guys all have really cool jobs, and as somebody that like doesn't really know what they want to do yet, but is really interested in communications, like I would be really interested in knowing how you guys kind of, I think you guys answered it, kind of how you guys got to where you are now and how you guys got that interest for that. But I think for me, like one thing that I think will help me get there is getting internships. So my question is more of like, how did you guys get those internships? Like, what did you guys use? And like, you know, how do you do it?
I don't know if I can remember the specific internships I applied for, but I know I applied for at least hundreds of them. And you really have to build up a thick skin to send your materials into the void and just accept nothing in return. And one day you'll get lucky. But I think perseverance and just being willing to just like continually put yourself out there is really important. And that's something I struggled with until I got into college. I was a little bit timid or afraid to kind of toot my own horn. But one of the best pieces of advice I've ever received is that nobody will be a bigger advocate for yourself than you. You have to hustle, you have to put the work in, and it's hard. I'm not a people person by nature. I don't love to like go to receptions and meet and greet and schmooze people. I'd rather sit at home on my couch with my cat and a book. But you kind of just have to do it, and it's not fun. But putting yourself out there, showing your skills, making sure people understand why you're the best fit for the job, I think is crucially important.
Yeah, I echo that. I think, you know, for our internship, we have a pretty large internship program, and it really is about connections. So, you know, I think if there's areas or businesses or executives, just even in the world, I do think like a lot to be said about cold calling and like emailing people and like just seeing if they'll do a coffee or talk to you about where they got, you know, to how they got there. And then like our company, we have a program that we started kind of in this virtual world. It's called Summer Series, which I know some of the UW students attended, but it was free. And it was basically just online courses that you could take for real life business. So there was a comms track, there was an entertainment track, there was a philanthropy and social impact track. And we had, you know, a number of different kind of professionals speak along with talent, just about businesses, entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So I think any areas that you can just look and see, you know, where you can either gain some free learnings or understandings. And then also, like I said, just reaching out. I think so many of my colleagues and certainly myself, we do a lot of just informational meetings with people who reach out to us. And I think, you know, that definitely is a way to kind of get a leg up in the internship world, because it really is about connection points. And when, you know, there's 1,000 applicants, if you know someone within that org who can speak to you, I think that also helps you stand out.
I can speak to this as well. I found the most success. There are job boards all over, and UW has so many resources from the comms department, also in the business school, that were accessible to anyone. But I actually had the most success going on LinkedIn, looking at various companies or just job titles that I thought I was interested in, and then looking to see if there were any UW alumni that worked there. It's actually how I got in the door for my job in New York. I saw the job listing. I was like, wow, this was made for me. How do you get your foot in the door? I went on LinkedIn, deep dove into every employee, and I found there happened to be a UW alum in New York, which was kind of like a perfect time and place thing. I got lucky. I LinkedIn messaged him, and I had an interview that next week. So there's a really cool camaraderie, I think, just from UW alumni. I know if someone ever reached out to me, like I would feel that connection right away. So use your LinkedIn. This, you know, it's not super glamorous, but just take hours, deep dive into different companies, see who's there. And going off of what Ginger said, like schmooze people just to schmooze them, even if you don't want their job or to work for them or with them. I learned so much from informational meetings, less so interviews, because that's more intense and there's a whole nother layer of stress on that. But just getting a coffee now, maybe on Zoom with someone to learn about what they do. And I was able to kind of check things off my list because my brain was going in 10 different directions when I was looking into what I wanted to do after school. So use LinkedIn, use the UW Alumni Network. People, throw a Go Dogs at them. They're in. I was in there the next day. I couldn't believe it. So, you use that to online network system. It's super helpful.
Definitely. In addition to reaching out through LinkedIn, University of Washington Alumni Association has launched a new program called Husky Landing, and it is a social network specifically designed to connect you with alumni with whom you might share career interests and things like that. So when I send out the follow-up email, including everyone's, our panelists' email addresses, I'll include the link to Husky Landing as well, because that's a great resource. LaVendrick, I want to move on to a question specifically for you. Why did you make the decision to change your career from journalism to something more communications based, and how did that change your community and day-to-day life?
Sure, no problem. First, I want to preface my answer to this by saying that I don't want to sound like I'm about to bash journalism. If that's something you want to do, definitely I say pursue it. That is such a life-changing experience that I've had. I can't stress enough. I have had so much fun and I've met so many people through journalism. As far as why I left, though, I had always had this 5-year-ish plan, or I guess it would have been like 2 or 3 years now coming up. But I had planned at a certain age to leave reporting, unless I was in like DC or New York, just because I wanted to at some point, I just kind of just shift focus and whatnot. But essentially last year with the pandemic, I just got extremely homesick. And I always have been homesick, as I described when I was in Florida with that broke down car. But I was able to have escapes for it. So if I wanted to watch a Huskies game during the fall, that was an escape. I can go hang out with friends. I could just do all kinds of stuff that I could do, but you couldn't do that anymore with the pandemic. Prior to last year, we had a crazy, hectic year in Dallas for news. I'm talking about weeks back to like in consecutive weeks, it just would not stop. There was one time in August where I had to cover, I did the main reporting for the El Paso mass shooting that happened in August of 2019. And then I went on vacation the very next day. 2 weeks later, we had another mass shooting. Then the month after that, we had the Amber Geiger murder trial. And then a week or so after that ended, Tatiana Jefferson got killed in a similar way. A week after that, we had a tornado that almost hit my apartment. A week after that, we had another mass shooting. And it was just like, it would not stop. So by the time 2020 happened, I was already feeling a level of burnout. I initially had planned to stay in reporting that year and keep trying to switch over to a beat that would be more courts focused, or look for another job in reporting at maybe like a national site or something. But when the pandemic hit and I was homesick, and then George Floyd got killed and we had all the social unrest, and I was just tired of being in an industry where we were kind of putting culture wars above certain things, where I felt like there was just like a lot of stuff that was just stressing me out, basically. And so I needed at the very least a break. And I just stumbled across this job. Usually I had this idea in my head that if I were to leave reporting, that I'd want to work for a place like the ACLU or the Human Rights Campaign, just an organization that I felt would be doing work that I can feel in my soul I'm proud of, helping out with. And when I found this, I was like, well, let me just apply and see what happens. And I guess so far it's been really great so far. My friends say that I appear happier. I don't necessarily see it in myself all the time because, we're still in just a crazy, chaotic society right now, and it's hard to see. But I feel, I feel like I've been able to take better agency and control over my life, and I appreciate that aspect about it more. I do miss a lot of stuff about journalism. I don't miss the bad stuff, like the layoffs, the stress, the inability to sometimes be able to have that work-life balance. But, I guess in life, you just got to do the things that make you happy and prioritize your own happiness. And that's basically what I did.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that with us. Want to be mindful of our panelists' time. So I think we're going to take one more audience question, and then I'll have a final question for you all. But Michaela, you have your hand up.
Yeah. Hi, guys. So I am super interested in pursuing political communication. And so a little bit more directed to Annaliese and LaVendrick, like doing something for an organization or something that I can, like LaVendrick, when you said something you feel proud of, is definitely something that I want to pursue. So if you could give any advice to your freshman year self, your first year of college, what would you say?
Damn, that's hard. I guess I would just say be versatile, or not versatile, be what's the word? Be flexible, excuse me. And I only say it like that because I didn't, as a freshman in college, I did not expect to be doing what I'm doing right now. I was dead set on staying and reporting and going to work at like the New York Times or something if I was so blessed to do that. And so I'm kind of in a situation where I just didn't foresee this at all. But you know, if you're going to get into this kind of career, I would say be flexible, but also just let your interests kind of guide you, because that's where you're going to get the job that you want, is if you look at your interests and see how they can be applied to that job. So if you want to work in this kind of sphere, I would say definitely just let those interests guide you and be flexible, because you just don't know where you'll end up.
Yeah, and just jumping on that, I agree with everything he said, but something I add is just be patient and be willing to work hard. These jobs don't just plop on your lap. It's a lot of work, but it's good work. And, you know, I'm fortunate to work for a member of Congress that shares the same values and ideals that I do. And that was really important. And you have really good days. Tomorrow will be a great day when we pass a big piece of legislation that we've been working on for a year. And then you have bad days, like the 6th of January, when I was unfortunately in this building, dealing with whatever happened there. But you just, every day is different. And, you know, if you're willing to work hard and put the hours in, it'll really pay off. And I just wish I would have known that when I was 19 years old and was stressed out about the future. And I mean, I'm still stressed out about the future and I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but, you know, I'm enjoying what I'm doing now. And, you know, I think that if I would have told myself, I think about this a lot. Like, I was a transfer student from a community college, so I actually only spent my last 2 years at UW, and then I actually only spent a year on campus because I did 2 internships and 1 study abroad program. So, you know, just kind of try everything. I think it's been mentioned that you don't know what you don't like until you try it. So that's kind of my bit of advice.
Thank you guys so much.
Actually, that's kind of the perfect segue into my final question. Just to let our students know, we will be sharing the email addresses with you all of our wonderful panelists. They have very graciously offered them to us so that you can continue to ask questions. But my final question for everyone on this panel is, what is one thing that you think our students should know about what you do? And what is the most valuable piece of advice you can give them?
I guess I can jump in again. The best piece of advice I ever received was to be nice to everybody. And that sounds so stupid, but you never know who is going to crop up somewhere down the road and you're going to really need them. And it just goes without saying to like treat others the way you want to be treated. I think that it's such a simple mantra to kind of live by, but this world is so connected, and somebody that you interact with in Seattle, Washington, you might see in Washington, D.C. one day, and they might be able to help you get a job or advance in your career. And I just think it's so key to just kind of treat everybody the same, whether they're the intern that's working in your office or the CEO that you report to.
Absolutely. Who wants to go next?
I can pop in. I'll piggyback Annaliese's advice with something else that's going to sound corny, but you know, they say you don't work a day in your life if you love what you do. Again, I went from this box that I put myself in that I had to be a businesswoman in New York City with a briefcase and make 6 figures by the time I was, you know, 28. And I got there and I was on that trajectory and I was so miserable. And I quit something for the first time in my life. I grew up, you don't quit, you finish what you started. And I completely pivoted to this like crazy startup world that lit this entrepreneurial fire in me that I didn't really know was there. So I would say, bringing that back to, you don't work a day in your life if you love what you do. If anyone is interested in starting their own business or running their own business, email me. It's a grind. I mostly work 80-hour weeks, but it never ever feels that way because I love what I do so much. Say yes to opportunities. Again, ask for jobs. Back to that other piece of advice, like ask for something if it doesn't exist. If there's an opportunity, if there's a person in front of you that's willing to listen, if you can position yourself well and sell yourself, they're going to have a hard time saying no. So that will get you to a place where hopefully you love what you do. And like LaVendrick said, your work-life balance and your mental health, especially right now and after last year, is so important. So, you're never stuck. You're never stuck. Say yes to opportunities and go where it feels good, because you got many years of working ahead of you. Might as well like what you do.
Thank you.
I can kind of add to that. Along those lines, is just basically, as I said, one, be flexible. That's one piece of advice, but kind of coinciding with what Maya just said is just remember to put, I guess, your own happiness first. It does sound corny when I say it like that, but just put your own happiness first. Remember that it's good to love what you do, but also don't make your job your whole entire role to the point where you forget who you are as a person, because truly the best experiences, the best parts of my job and all the jobs I've had is just the people that I've been able to meet and just the experiences I get from doing that. And those are the memories that will stick in your head 40, 50 years from now when you're looking back on everything. It's not going to be the actual work necessarily, but just the moments, the experiences. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think mine would be a combination of what everyone said. I think one thing that I always tell the young people on my team is when you're young is the time to put in the work, right? So it's like when you don't have a family, when you don't, have a little bit of freedom and flexibility with your life, like that's when you should be hustling and like trying to really be scrappy and stand out from the crowd, I think. And then also, to what Annaliese said, truly, the world is a small place, much smaller than you might think. So it really does, I think like for me, the number one requirement for like my assistant is like, you have to be nice to everyone. And if like, that's like the one compliment I want to hear is like anyone who interacts with her, like she's a reflection of me, but also people, like Annaliese said, someone may be an assistant somewhere and then they may be running a company the next day. And they truly remember people who treat them poorly or treat them well. So it's just a good reminder.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. If everyone could kind of give me a round of applause and give one to our panelists as well. Sorry, that sounded weird. I meant join me in giving our panelists a round of applause. You do not have to applaud me. Thank you all for your wonderful questions. Like I said, I will share our panelists' contact information with you, but feel free to look them up on LinkedIn. I know they'd love to continue talking with you and hearing from you. And again, thank you all for being able to join us today. Andrea, any last thoughts?
Just that I had goosebumps many times as you all were sharing your stories and what you've learned and what you're doing. Just thank you. This was went beyond my expectations of. So thank you so much. And our students are going to get a ton out of this. I can't wait to post a recording for the people who couldn't be here. So truly, thank you. I leave inspired.
Thank you all.